Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up? Welcome to episode 98 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Excited for today's show. Got two guests instead of one. What's better than one guest? Two guests, and when they're great guys, glad to have them both on. Tony Bianchini and Blake Jamieson. Tony's basically working and sort of, I guess you call him a personal assistant, if you will. I apologize to them if that's not the official designation, but they've launched a new faction of what Blake Jamieson does called CardArt. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk to Blake and Tony about where the Project 2020 is now 3/4 of the way home and done. And it's been some ups and downs. We're going to, I'm going to come out and ask him, some of the complaints. I'm going to get his take on it, and rightfully so. There's two sides to every story. And then we're obviously going to talk about card art, what that is, what it entails, and why. And I'll let them speak to it rather than me. It's their thing, and glad they made some time for the show to come on, answer those questions, and highlight card art as well. So glad to have them on. Later in the show, we're going to announce the winner of the free 5 vintage grading some PSA submissions. Thanks to Rob over at Iron Sports Cards, one of our sponsors. Rob, kind of a long-time sponsor now, and going to give someone away 5 free subs, vintage submissions to PSA, and really appreciate him doing that as well. So I'll announce the winner of that towards the back end of the show. And this is episode 98. We're 2 away from the big 100. I don't know how much I've talked about it on the actual podcast itself. Episode 100 will take place on Halloween, Saturday afternoon. I believe we're going to go live. Our first ever Sports Card Nation live. It will be at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Facebook. And my guest joining me will be Dr. James Beckett, Brody the Kid, and Drew Herndon. We're just going to riff. I'm going to tell them, what they meant to me, and as we approach our almost second year in the book doing this show. It'll be episode 100. And when I started out, as I've said many times, this show, I had no idea where it was going to go, didn't know how long it was going to last, didn't know how it was going to do, didn't know it was going to be an interview show, didn't know we were going to have great sponsors and great guests, didn't know a lot of things, just kind of went in with really no expectations, had a plan, but a base plan, and where the shows went and that plan are two different things. And so, all three of those guys that are going to be on the show mean something to me. Drew helped me when I kind of first got my jumped into the podcasting pool. Dr. Beckett's an icon of the hobby. So someone who started as a 7-year-old as a collector, 15 years old became a dealer, 20 years old became a brick and mortar store owner. Dr. Beckett's contributions were instrumental in what I was doing. And so to think many moons later, I'd get to know him, and he'd be on Hobby Hotline with him. He'd be on my show. I'd be on his show. I didn't, back then we didn't even know what podcast was, but you know what I mean. To think that's where we would be in 2020, it's just, it's crazy to think about, and I'm appreciative of that fact, and thankful he's come on episode 100 or agreed to, and then, Brody the Kid, 13 years old, now on Hobby Hotline, doing a great job. I could never even do anything like that when I was 13. Is really getting to know the hobby and becoming, a content creation force, someone to look out for, and got a long career ahead of him, and excited to see where it goes. I joke with Brody, don't take my job too soon. But all joking aside, Brody getting it done at 13, and that just makes all what he's doing all the more impressive to do it at such a young age. So looking forward to episode 100. That'll be Halloween, like I said, Saturday, 1 p.m., tentatively scheduled. It will be a live event. We will release the show probably on Sunday via audio, like we always do on Fridays, but except I'll upload it. It'll be Sunday. And then we're going to take a week off. We're going to take, I think it's November 6th. We're going to take a week off. We're giving away a ton of stuff on episode 100. And so I'm going to take a week off. We got to get all that stuff shipped out and into the rightful winner's hands. And so we haven't taken a week off. Episode 100 will be our 48th straight week of shows without missing a Friday. And so we're going to end our Cal Ripken-like streak with 100. Take kind of a pause, catch our breath just for a week, and then come back November 13th with some more great guests. And that's the other thing. We've got some great guests forthcoming on this program. And just like today with Tony and Blake, real happy to have them. So with that being said, let's get this thing going. Time for this week's incoming product releases. All right, let's get to the week's releases. The 16th, which is today, if you're listening to the show on show release day, Friday the 16th. All the following will be coming out today. 2019-20 Leaf Lumber Kings Hockey. Leaf Decision 2020 Trading Cards. And I tell you, political cards are, I know there's not a ton of them, but with Topps' new recent releases with the vice presidential debate and the presidential debate, these things are sneaky popular and something to consider, especially in this crazy year of 2020. Also on the 16th, 2020 Panini Contenders Baseball. Also 2020 Leaf Metal Pop Century, and Rittenhouse Game of Thrones, the complete series. Then a little bit of a lull, and then on the 21st, we have 2019-20 Topps Museum Collection, UEFA Champions League Soccer. Also on the 21st, 2020 Panini XR Football. Also, same day, 2020 Topps Star Wars Stellar Signatures. Staying on the 21st, 2020-2021 Panini Contenders Draft Basketball, 2019-20 Panini Encased Basketball, and closing out the week that was or will be 2020 Leaf Trinity Football.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
All right, folks, this is going to be a new segment we do every week on the show. I hope we don't have to do it every week, but each week we're going to pay respects to those we lost in the sports world and or the hobby world. And obviously, we hope that's no one, and this segment doesn't have to air. But I also want to pay proper respect for those that are part of the hobby, whether it's from the sports world or the hobby itself. So this week we lost two more Hall of Famers. It's been a real bad year with losing Hall of Famers. On October 8th, at the age of 91, 14 days before his 92nd birthday, Whitey Ford, the chairman of the board, 16 years in the major leagues, all with the Yankees, passed away. 10-time All-Star pitcher, 6-time World Series champion. In 1961, he won the Cy Young and the World Series MVP in the same year. And 2 days later, on October 10th, at the age of 77, Joe Morgan, Hall of Famer, second baseman, 2-time MVP, 10-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glover, 22 years in the bigs, lost his life as well. And, we remember Joe, a lot of us do, from his stint on Sunday Night Baseball with John Miller. I look forward to just those two guys alone. It didn't even matter who was playing, and so they're gone, but not forgotten. Rest in peace, Whitey Ford and Joe Morgan. Pastime Marketplace offers a line of durable graded card cases made for collectors who want high-quality graded card storage that is virtually indestructible. Their cases are waterproof, dustproof, airtight, and designed to protect your valuable collection. Check them all out at www.pastimemarketplace.com. Protect your best with the best. And remember to save 10% off your total order. Use the promo code SCN10. That's capital S, capital C, capital N, 10 for 10% off your total order at pastimemarketplace.com. It's time for What's Cracking. Sort of a quiet week in the hobby world. Not a lot of big news. I mean, the Lakers won their 17th NBA title. Panini has made a 30-card Lakers championship set. It's going to have numerous LeBrons in it. It's going to retail for $29.99. So definitely at an affordable price level. It'd be interesting to see what kind of movement that product has or does, if any. And continuing a retired athlete trend, Johnny Bench is selling a lot of his personal mementos and memorabilia from his playing career. That's something we've seen Cal Ripken just do, and we've seen other players before that do that. And I often wonder, and I don't know, this is just me speculating, Ripken's younger than Johnny Bench, but, when a player gets a certain age, I don't know, do they figure like their family doesn't want like their MVPs or gold gloves and figure they could sell it and leave the money to their family? I just wonder if that's the rationale or the mindset when you see a player do that. Johnny Bench just lost his former teammate Joe Morgan, and when the guys get up there, I've talked about that on the card side of things, right? when you get a certain age, like I'm at now, the music's going to stop. What am I going to do with all this stuff? What's the plan? What's the end game? Does my son just want to inherit it, or do I want to sell it all? And so I got a feeling when you see these guys, auction their stuff off like that, it's that on that level with their playing day memorabilia. So it's sort of sad, I think. I mean, I know they're doing it willingly. I'm sure Johnny Bench isn't broke. He's not doing it for that reason. But it's almost sad that that the family isn't going to own that. And but I'm sure there's reasons behind it. It's not the first or the last time it's going to happen. Speaking of auctions, I just mentioned about Ripken's memorabilia he went with Golden. Speaking of Golden auctions, if you follow the show again, you know about the two 1947 Bond-bred Jackie Robinsons that a local person called me up with, asked me if I was interested. I was, but these things are going to be worth way more than I would pay, and I don't steer people wrong. And so, I got her to get them graded. They graded 3.5, one did, and 4 the other. And then I had just had Ken Golden on the show, and I texted him the photos of those cards graded and asked him if he was interested. They weren't mine. I let him know they weren't mine, but it's someone I knew, and they were looking to sell them. And he said, no doubt, he's interested, and told me to have the owner email him, which they did. And so those 2 cards, those Jackie Robinsons, are now in the October catalog up for auction. At the time of this recording, one was, I believe, at $850, and the other one was up to $1,200. It goes all the way to October 31st, so a lot of time left. And I'm happy. Carolyn, that's her name. She's going to do very well, and I'm glad I was able to help someone out. It's that stuff that really, I love making a sale. I love buying a good deal. But when you facilitate, a transaction like that where someone's going to, do very well, it just makes you feel good that, number one, you do the right thing, and number two, it's going to help somebody out. So I'll kind of keep you abreast as we get closer to auction close at what those 2 cards are going for. But it's going to be fun to watch. I know they're not my cards, but I almost feel like I've got a small role in it, and I guess I do. So that's pretty cool. Well, we know the National in Atlantic City was postponed to December, and then we know that was also canceled. So the next up is Chicago, end of August, front half of July. Fingers crossed, right, that we get through this pandemic and that event happens. It was the first National I went to 2 years ago, and I'm hoping it's the second National I go to. I took my time off from my employer, put it in, got approved, so I have that time off to attend if it happens. I'm excited to get back to Chicago, and now having been there before, and then now being even more experienced as far as podcasting goes, and hobby-wise, I've got a lot of that experience. But in the podcasting realm, and obviously, what is the number really on top of most people's list that go to the National, right, is meeting the people that they know in an online form in person. I've had a lot of people reach out and said they hope that happens one day, and so I'm hoping that's the case in Chicago. I know the first time I went a couple years ago, one day I made it, just kind of walking around and meeting people and having conversations, and that was again in the infancy stages of what this show is, and now we're in a different place, and so I'm sure there'll be a lot more people I want to meet, and vice versa, and just a great event, a great time. I call it the Super Bowl of the hobby for a reason. And so let's all cross our fingers and hope we're on the either out of these woods known as the pandemic, or at least in a spot where that event can happen. If we have to wear a mask, then we have to wear a mask. I mean, I'm okay with that. And I think even when this pandemic's over, I think you're going to see a lot more people just wear masks past the point when they're not even necessarily mandatory. And so, just for out of safety or extra precaution. And if, that's not the worst thing in the world to be able to attend, whether it's a sporting event, a card show, going to a store, whatever may be the case. It's a small price to pay. So let's hope for the National in Chicago, and if it does happen, I hope to meet a lot of you there.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Commence interview sequence.
Joining me on the One of One Card Shop guest line is not one person, but what's better than one person? Two people. One's been on the show before, one hasn't. Glad to have them both on this week. Blake Jamieson and Tony Bianchini. Welcome.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John, for having us.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. So the first thing we got to cover, it's been the card story of the year as far as I'm concerned, regardless of what you think. It's been the Topps Project 2020. Obviously, Blake, you're one of the 20 artists in that. You've been on the show before, kind of real early. So I haven't talked to you really in this form or fashion in a while. I think when you were on, we were in the almost single digits or a little double digits of the project. Now we're in the 280s. Kind of your thoughts, or both of you guys' thoughts of, now that we're almost 3/4 of the way home, kind of, how it's been, your thoughts on just anything you want to talk about.
Yeah. Man, it's been a fun ride, and it's definitely been a ride, ups and downs. But for the most part, from an art business perspective, it's been a really, really good year for me, and a lot of fun meeting people in the hobby, meeting other artists and connecting with them, and then seeing each of the artists kind of evolve and their art practice develop through the 400 card set, I think is really fun. And now we're starting to see what complete player sets are looking like and what complete artist sets are looking like, and there's a lot of really nice ones. So I'm super happy. It's going to be sad when it ends, but it's going to be a fun final few months.
And John, I want to tell you, I've been a card collector my whole life, probably since 1986. And Don Mattingly is my PC, and I never was interested in art at all before. I didn't know Blake before April. And when I met Blake on the Facebook board, he was engaging with fans, and I was just one of his fans. And now I know a lot more about art and about Blake, and this set has really been something different than I've ever collected in my life before, and I think it's resonated with a lot of people that hadn't collected cards in 20 years, and COVID made them clean out their house and look in the basement and regain that love for baseball cards. And now people are making art and collecting baseball cards, which is super cool. The collab, how the cross section of it came together.
Yeah, Tony, you made a great point there too. Like you said, you didn't even know Blake until this year, and you guys have obviously formed quite a team and gotten to know each other. And another point you made too is it's rekindled the hobby in a lot of people. I know Blake himself has really jumped in full bore, head first, and a lot of other people as well. And so this project, the artists involved in the project have been directly responsible for rekindling the hobby. And so, we can look at print numbers and sometimes they go down, sometimes they go up. And sometimes I think we put sometimes too much emphasis on those. Sure, they're great to look at and kind of get a feel or gauge maybe where we are, but the stuff you don't see in print numbers, like you guys both just mentioned, with people bringing into the hobby in general. Not even if they're buying, whether they're buying, Project 2020 cards or they're just into the hobby. And that's a good thing, being an advocate and an ambassador in a great hobby. It's been a side effect that I don't even know if Topps was really thinking that far ahead, other than the project itself. And so it's great to see someone in the hobby. I'm one of those guys. There's some people, I'm old, so I started as a 7-year-old kid in '79, and some people, not everybody, doesn't like all the new influx of people. I'm not in that category, but there are some, and I'm the opposite. I'm on the other side of the aisle. I'm like, if we want this hobby to be strong, we need new people. I'm at 47. I like to think I'm going to be around forever, but we know the reality is that's not the case. And so we need that next group coming up to kind of take the baton. And so we need new people in the hobby. And those who like their card values, especially when they're selling, to be on the higher end of the scale. You need those new buyers making transactions in the market. So a lot of people don't like the new people, want their cards to sell for more. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You get, and I was welcomed as a 7-year-old, and I try to do that. Anyone new coming in the hobby, I try to be as informative and help them. Just even what you guys think, piggybacking on that.
Definitely. Like the hobby is a part of a club, right? And like any club, it takes a lot to get new people to come into it. And we're very guarded, and right, we love each other inside of the hobby. We send each other like mail of with kindness and for free, and trade with people. But it's hard to get new people to come in. And one of the things I think about Project 2020 is that like people have to rethink that it's not just a baseball card. And Blake should talk more about that. How it's more than just a baseball card. What do you think about that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that from the beginning, that it's like a tiny painting or a tiny print. And Topps 2020 selling cards for $20, I know from some perspective seems like a lot for a single card, especially when there's 400 of them, and I get that. But from like my art business perspective, I've never sold art prints for $20 before, regardless of size. And so this has been like the most price-friendly way that someone can get into collecting a small piece of my art. And I've had collectors, like friends from high school or middle school, that maybe didn't have the money to buy an original print or original painting, or maybe even a print before the project, and then they were able to get some cards, and then they, like Tony said, like went to the garage and found their old cards and kind of rediscovered that love for the hobby itself. So yeah, I think it's a great cross section of art and baseball. I think it's they've always kind of worked together. And if you look at a lot of vintage cards are paintings and not photographs. Yeah. And so I think now, like, taking it to the next level and letting the artists really kind of express themselves with their own style, but still paying tribute to the original cards, super fun to see and awesome to be a part of.
And also, John, like I said, I've been a long-time collector, and when I collect baseball cards, I barely even look at them. And baseball cards are boring, to be honest. Like, they're batters batting and pitchers pitching. And, like, I think Blake has just brought a whole new spin to cards and made them interesting. Like, when people come over to my house, I don't want to show them my baseball cards, but I'll show them my Blake painting or other paintings on the wall or my card art, because that's something that, like, they haven't seen before, and it's something you want to show your guests. And something like, I'm not like a baseball card collector, right? And it's something that other people can enjoy.
Well, baseball card collecting used to be sort of, not completely, but it's kind of nerdy. When you're in high school, girls weren't really impressed when you say, hey, you want to check out my Don Mattingly collection, right? But now it's taken on a whole new context. We got celebrities now doing it and openly on social media advertising it. Some of them are doing breaking, in Steve Aoki's case and others, Mark Wahlberg. It's crazy where this hobby has went, especially in year 2020, with what we know is going on with the pandemic. It's just a crazy hobby year. It's been probably one of the best years in the hobby. Piggybacking off what Blake said, with cards being little works of art. I mean, the first set I think of is that 1953 Topps. Those are paintings, right? And like you said, Tony, those are more. One of the reasons that's a real popular set is it's not that just, I hate to say it like this, that boring guys in the batter's box, pitchers in full stretch type. And those, photography is an art in its own right. I'm not trying to put down art, photography, but it's pretty cut and dry, right? They're just getting action shots, and there's a skill level to that. That's why I'm talking to you guys here and not in the dugout taking some shots. And we've had Nick Wasika, a sports card photographer, on the show, and we've learned a lot of it goes into what that job entails. But there's something to be said, like you said, Tony, with taking a photo and then taking a photo or a picture and putting a paint and media to it and in your own hand. And I've always been like that. Even as a kid, those vintage cards that were pieces of art, I was drawn to those even more so than the releases that weren't. And I think it's always going to be like that. I think Project 2020 has really sort of highlighted that fact that whether we say we're art fans or we're not, our internal mind seems to be drawn to something that we don't see on an everyday basis. Let's put it that way.
Just follow up that, like, I've been a journalist my whole life, so I love photographers. Or photographers help tell that part of the story.
Yeah,
definitely art too. You look at the Andrew McCutcheon short print this year, the Dr. Fauci card. Those are photos.
Yeah,
those are cool photos that were utilized as a card, and so why not use unique things like that? I think it resonated with a lot of people because it was Andrew McCutcheon looking cool, and people wanted to collect that. So that's kind of what I was kind of saying about photography.
It's great, and again, the project is been a direct force in that. And we're going to step aside for a quick break, but we'll be back with more Blake and Tony. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way. Sports Card Nation is back with more Blake and Tony. The 20 artists, you and the 19 other artists, Blake, have been the catalyst for that, quite frankly. And you've kind of taken that and you've kind of become, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I view you sort of, and all 20 artists are obviously all talented, or they wouldn't be on the project and doing the incredible work they're doing. But you sort of become like the face of the project. Early on, you kind of took the baton and said, "Listen, this is I'm privileged to be doing this. I'm happy to be doing this." But you've kind of you kind of came out in the front and put a face even to the project. Now, we're not just invisible, working in our studios. You'll never see who we are, type of thing. I think you even brought out, I don't want to speak for the other artists that aren't in the room right now, but I think you even brought out some of them to kind of maybe come out, not that they're in the show, but kind of come out more and be more seen and vocal and that sort of thing. And you do your own kind of video log every day at 10:23. You've kind of even opened cards and talked about cards outside of the project. And, you've had on the other artists and other folks on your show to get them to speak. But maybe they wouldn't have done that in other circumstances. And so you've sort of kind of taken that lead role, if you will. And, I think it's great. You know, you've done other things with cards and some of your projects. You know, there's some people that say it's overkill. You know, you hear people on message boards and post publicly it's too much or it's overkill. And I guess everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously. You don't have to agree with them. I really don't. I think, Blake, you come, as you said on the previous show, you come from a marketing background that's in your DNA. And I think that's just come through. I think that's just smart. What do you want to call business or just smart, whatever you want to call it, just using your best of your abilities to the maximum power. That's how I look at it. What do you say? I guess my question is to you, Blake. What do you say to the naysayers, if you will, that say it's too much, take a chill pill? I'm actually probably being nicer than some in how I'm wording it, because I don't necessarily agree with them. But I'm sure you've heard it yourself.
I appreciate that, and I'll speak first on I don't believe that I'm necessarily the face of the project, but I do take a lot of pride in the effort that I put into building a community, both connecting with fans and collectors, and then also engaging with the other artists and trying to give them a platform to tell their story. Because like you said, and if people didn't listen to the previous episode that we recorded, I come from a marketing background. I didn't choose to become a professional artist until I turned 30. I never went to art school. I have no formal training. And so what I did have was I had a lot of experience helping brands tell their story and humanizing their brands. And I've always known that that's important to connect with, customers and fans and in any industry. And so it was natural for me to come into Project 2020 and, if nothing else, I was going to try to do a very good job both telling my story and then also connecting on a very human level with the people that wanted to hear it. So that's been a really rewarding and fun process, and also helped me build relationships with other artists that I would have probably had a hard time doing if we were all just working alone in our studio and not putting out content and asking questions and doing interviews. So that's been really cool. In terms of, I kind of have this love-hate relationship with the internet too, which is funny as a marketer, because I understand it's necessary to get my message out there, and I truly do want feedback. I want to hear what people think about the art. I want to hear what they think about price points of products or the products themselves. And so I am very aware of, some subsection of the internet that says, okay, well, this is a money grab and there's just too much stuff. But look, at the end of the day, you think about an artist, the immediate stigma is a starving artist, and that's it for a reason, because it's really freaking hard, and it's tough to continually run a business where you're selling something that is a luxury good. Nobody needs art to survive, but it's super fun for the people that enjoy it, just like people that enjoy baseball cards. There's no real reason you need them just because they exist. It's because of the story behind them, and it's because of the funness. And so the fact that we have 20 artists now that are putting out all types of different products, and we're testing things. This is the first time around on Project 2020. It's never happened before. I don't blame any of the artists for putting stuff out. We all have a business to run, and this is what we do. And the fact that we have a platform just to tell more people about the different products that we have available, I don't think that we should be criticized for that. I don't care if we are, but I just don't agree with them. And then beyond that, we're all adults here. Buy whatever you want. If you like an artist, buy their stuff. If somebody else puts out 1,000 companion cards and companion items and prints and originals and all kinds of stuff, you don't have to buy it. Buy whatever you want, And also, just taking from a collector standpoint, collectors like things that are rare, right? So, and in small edition sizes, the one of one, that's the most treasured card in collections oftentimes. And so if we're seeing maybe a flood of different products where all these different artists are offering all these different things, well, great. There's a finite number of people that are going to buy it, and they have a finite amount of money. So there's only going to be a certain amount of each of those things out in the world. And so you might end up with this obscure print, right? Or an obscure, a choose your own auto color, which we've done, where we literally let people pick whichever color auto they want on Ken Griffey. 2 different people paid $150 and they ended up with a one of one card. And that's just because other people were kind of prioritizing how they were going to spend their money and decided, no, okay, I don't want the light blue Ken Griffey auto, and that's totally fine. But the one person that said, yeah, I want that, they've got a 1-of-1 card now that's probably going to retain some value down the road. So I don't know. I mean, I hear it, and it's fine. And I've also, like, at the beginning of this project, when I would put stuff out, I was like, go buy my Griffey card, or like, go buy my Mark McGwire card. Like, it's only available for 48 hours. Get it while you can, and really pushing that. And like, probably halfway through the project, my message has totally changed. Where like, you can watch videos where I say, hey guys, my Ted Williams card's out. If you want to get it, fantastic. If it's not for you, don't worry about it, because I don't want to force people into buying anything. Buy whatever you like, and that could be my art, it could be someone else's art, or it could be nobody's art, and they could go spend it a different way, and that's totally fine with me as well.
Yeah, you touched on something. You stole my kind of thunder, because I was going to say, rather than be critical of someone, like, showcasing their talents, that you said it, Blake. You don't have to buy it. No one's putting a gun to anyone's head and making anyone. That's the beauty. That's the freedom we have. You don't want to buy that. Same thing with a podcast. You don't like this show and you like that other show, you listen to the other show. If you like this show, I hope you do, and you're listening, thank you. But that's the beauty. Or you like multiple shows and multiple artists in your case, and multiple players in the 20-player line, and you have choices. And so I think a lot of times that angst, I don't know, what you guys think. A lot of that angst sometimes comes from sort of jealousy, like, hey, I can't do that, or they're making money and I'm not making as much money, and so we it's unfortunately comes from sort of that aspect of the hobby where. I just, like you said, even speaking from myself as a collector and a dealer, I just buy what I want to buy. I partake in what I want to partake, but I don't really so much criticize those who are doing that. If you're a band, you make albums, right? And you make a greatest hits. You make a Christmas album, depending on your band. No one has to buy. Those who want to buy those other type of offshoots will buy it, and those who don't will don't. I don't know if we have to be critical. I understand that people review albums and people have jobs, but they're getting paid to do that, to review. But to just sort of take pot shots from your couch or wherever you are, again, you don't have to purchase it, but to kind of shoot someone down who's showcasing their skills, that's not something I would participate in. But this is a big hobby with millions of people, and so that kind of comes with the territory.
I just wanted to say too that Blake and I see the negative comments. We try to respond to everybody's comments, but I would say that the positive comments way outfar the negative comments. And there's going to be negative comments, but we've heard so many comments the last 6 months that have touched both of our hearts. Like, you brought me back to the hobby. I'm collecting cards with my kids again. My family member's sick, and the package I got from you this morning gave me such a smile. And so, all of those messages, they mean so much more. And, people are going to be negative, but, they're going to be negative. And I would love to talk to them and find out why they're negative, because there's probably a reason behind it. And Blake and I have worked to connect one-on-one with so many different, we don't even call them customers, they're fans. And we're connecting on a personal level with so many people. And I know so many personal things about people I never knew before that I never would have met in California before if it wasn't for this hobby. So
yeah,
I like to focus on the positive.
Yeah, and that's a good way to approach it. I'm old enough to know that some people, you guys probably know too, and you're younger, some people just wake up and they're sort of just a grumpy person, and it is what it is. I think now too, with the pandemic being extended, and quarantines, or kind of the freedoms to and places being open and doing those extracurricular, that style's getting cramped. I think people are a little bit cabin fever, grumpy, a little bit pent up anger, if you will, and so it's coming from a little bit of that place as well. I think you guys both, you said it yourself. You kind of, accentuate the positive stuff, the good stories, the good feedback you get, and that's all you can do. You can't win the whole room. There's been movies that have won Academy Awards that got bad reviews, and so you got to take it with a grain of salt. Sounds like you guys do that. I want to kind of just close on the Project 2020, and then we'll move to CardArt, which I know is your guys' project. Blake, like I said, you really got about 100 cards left in the set. We're almost in the 300s. The obvious question is there going to be a 2021 project? That most people, I know yourself, said it won't be what we see with baseball players. It might be in a different form, but your thoughts on that. But I also think whatever Topps or another company decides to do, I think this has really been the precedent-setting product, and entity. And years later, we're going to look back to the Topps 2020 project as kind of what started what's probably going to be a trend for many years. And, being a part of that yourself, along with the 19 other artists. And, what are your thoughts? What maybe, I know we can't say everything potentially, but, where do you see CardArt, and I know that's the company, but, art in the hobby world, kind of piggybacking off 2020, Topps Project 2020, what should we kind of look forward in the future?
Well, like you mentioned, so Jeff Heckman, who runs Project 2020, came on one of my live streams, and that was a very popular question that people were asking is, will there be a Project 2021? And the answer was no. And then it kind of had a caveat of, not in the same format. And so I'm currently in discussions with Topps about future projects. I'm very excited. Like I said early on, this has been a really big thing for me in my art business. It's been a life-changing year for me, and I would love to continue working with Topps in any capacity that they would have me. And so we are discussing a couple projects, a little bit different format, and I can't really get into too many specifics, but it does, as long as we can kind of come to terms on the deal points, it seems like I will continue working with Topps in the future, which is fantastic. I know that a couple other artists are in the same boat as me. We saw Ben Baller had his Topps Chrome set come out. Really cool to see. Beautiful cards. And so I do think there will be a lot of future in terms of keeping art and baseball cards mixed, as well as maybe outside of baseball cards. Topps has other products as well. I think it'd be really exciting to work with some other sports in addition to more baseball stuff. So that's kind of as much as I really know right now. But it does sound like Topps is very open-minded to continue working with me, as well as I think as many of the other artists are willing, because from a business standpoint for them, this was extremely successful. And, I don't want to see that it's been a long set. I know that, 400 cards it's a lot. And so I think that Topps saw a lot of success from that, and I can't imagine them pumping the brakes when something's working so well. I hope that they just do it in a way that continues to keep the fans excited and continues to keep the artists engaged, and hopefully we can all learn from this project for a lot of things. The way that we release our cards, the way we promote our cards, the way we handle customer service, we autograph our cards, all those things. I've learned a lot this year, and I'm excited to keep that carrying on. Also, while we're still on the Project 2020 note, before we get to the CardArt stuff, I'm very, very excited about my next card to come out, which is Derek Jeter. And that one comes out, I believe, on Wednesday, which I think the episode, let's see here. So that'll be Wednesday the 14th is when my Derek Jeter card will come out. So maybe that'll be timed. Maybe this episode will be out.
This comes out Friday morning, so I think that window will still be open.
Right.
And so if you're hearing this, go out there. It's closing soon, so don't wait. Go out there and grab Jeter.
You don't have to buy it. But
no, you do. You do have to buy it.
I really love, honestly, if I have to look at all my cards, Mark McGwire is my favorite one I've designed, just because I have this kind of very intimate personal history and story with growing up idolizing him. But I gotta say, man, this Derek Jeter card is my second favorite behind Mark McGwire. I'm really, really proud of it. I painted it live on the stream a few nights ago, and the fans so far seem to like it. I'm very excited about this drop. It's going to be a fun one.
Yep. So if you're hearing this on Friday morning, you listen to the show right away. go get that Jamieson Jeter before it's too late. If you miss it, there's always a secondary market, so you didn't miss it.
Right.
You just, you gotta fight the others off and get it at the best price you can then. So we got to step aside for one more quick break, but we'll be back with more Blake and Tony. Hey folks, tired of going to the retail store and finding the wax shelves cleaned out bare? I've got the answer for you, and that answer is Hotbox Cards. They offer a monthly subscription service at a great price level. What's better than getting a box of sports cards on your doorstep every month? Not a whole lot, and these boxes don't cost a whole lot. Let me tell you what's in each and every hot box. 3 Relic or Auto cards, 3 unopened hobby packs, 50 bonus cards featuring stars, rookies, semi-stars, inserts, and parallels. And 1 in every 5 boxes has a red-hot envelope with a surprise card. They also honor expired redemptions with a comparable item, so there's no worry about getting that old redemption card with nothing to show for it. Check them out at www.hotboxcards.net. October is Legendary Month. Baseball boxes will have a Laughlin World Series card, and football boxes will contain a Legendary Star. And put in promo code SCNation. SC Nation all in cap, and your box will contain an extra hit. Once again, we are back with Blake and Tony. One last thing on it, just something I've said on my own show, is I'd like to see, and maybe this is kind of where you're going, I don't want to, break any news or get you in trouble, but what I'd like to see is what we see with the Topps Project 2020. I like to see Topps, when they do like an insert set, like home run guys or whatever the insert set is, instead of them being, just the photos, make this insert set the artwork of the players. And what's nice about that too is now you're in the regular product. You mentioned with Ben Baller in the Chrome release, but this would be, obviously that product was not a cheap product, not always obtainable for everybody in the hobby per se, but put it in flagship Topps as an insert set, whether 10 card set, 20 card set of today's players too. I mean, as great as these Hall of Famers are, and I'm sure you're enjoying painting them, I'm sure you'd also like to paint, and I know you had, even some, current players. Mike Trout obviously is still current with the 20, and then it also allows someone to be exposed to your art without, $20 is $20. They could buy a pack for $3 and pull, a Blake Jamieson, Pete Alonso painted insert card. And you can do a lot even with those insert cards. Take your painting and then put a little extra glitz or whatever they do. We've seen some crazy cards. I'm a sucker for acetate cards, the clear where you can see through them. I would love to see like your artwork on a clear card.
So cool.
Just stuff like that. If Topps steals that, I want some royalty. But all joking aside, there's so many different ways they can go and still have this awesome work, even just come out of regular product packs. And be exposed more, even more mainstream than you already have. And I hope Topps does that. I hope there's a lot of smart people at Topps, no doubt. And hopefully, that light bulb above their head goes off and they think along them lines. And I'd love to see that continue even in that fashion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I have had that discussion with Jeff before, because I think that inserts would be a really fun way, because like you said, like that way I would love to see the cards in retail versus just having to order them online. Would just be a really fun thing. Like if I could go into a card store and buy packs and be ripping them, trying to like look for my chase cards would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, yeah, man.
You're on your live stream, you open in the pack and you hit it your own. Like, look, I recognize this card.
Exactly. That'd be super cool. So
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know for sure if they're going to do that, but we have had that discussion, so I think it'd be so cool to see.
Yeah, well, we'll stay tuned, So, all right, guys. So we've talked, quite a bit about Project 2020, and deservedly so. But I also wanted to talk about card art. That's something you guys are doing. I've seen some of it. I know some of it, but better to have you explain it than it's your baby. So I'll let you guys kind of where it came from and everything pertaining to it.
Sure. Tony, you want to kick it off? You want me to?
You go first, bro.
Okay, cool. So when I started with Project 2020, Top sent me a care package of some boxes, and specifically there was a box of Heritage that I opened up live on my live stream, and it was fun because I've been very transparent about, like, I'm not very current on baseball players, and so these guys were helping me learn how to say the names right, learn which ones were good, and so that was a really fun experience. And then afterwards, I just had a big stack of cards. Like, I have, I PC Buster Posey is really the only current baseball player, and so I pull those aside. But then everything else, like, well, what are we going to do with this? And we're here in my art studio, and I've got a ton of paint and a ton of space, so we decided to lay them all out on the floor on a canvas, and I just start splatter painting on them and turning them into, like, these kind of little tiny paintings that are truly one of ones. There's no card like it out there. And so people liked it. And at first we just said, okay, well, you watch our live stream and we'll send you a card for free, just to kind of have a fun way to engage. And so we started shipping them out to fans, and Tony really has been taking the reins. He runs all of the fulfillment and makes sure that everyone gets the cards or players or teams that they want. And then those started showing up on social media. People would receive them and post about, saying, look at this amazing card art that I got from Blake. Thank you, Tony, for shipping it. And then other people would see it and say, like, I want to buy one of those. How much is it? And so it was a very, like, kind of long calculated process that Tony and I went through to, like, kind of turn this into a business. We acquired the domain CardArt.com, which took some doing on its own, and kind of put a plan into place to create truly one-of-a-one cards with art, paint directly on them that we can sell to fans. And so there's a few different ways that people can do it. We put up specific cards, like a Mike Trout card, and people might want to buy that specific one, or people could say, okay, I want my favorite team, and then Tony will pick out, like, from all the Braves cards we have, we'll pick out a cool Braves one to send them. And the long-term goal is to build it into a platform where other artists beyond just myself can use it, and people know they can come there to get truly one-of-one cards that otherwise might be just sitting in a garage box, but now become like these treasured PC items that end up getting shelf space, which is really fun.
Like we've been talking about the whole time, people collect in different ways. So people are collecting their favorite teams or their favorite set or their favorite players. So like I was saying before about connecting with people on a one-on-one basis, like Blake and I have been doing that the last 6 months, where we're finding out, like, who's your favorite PC, and going on those boards and chatting with people about Ken Griffey and Don Mattingly. And people, it's like, it's usually sacrilege to paint on a baseball card, right? And you want to get it graded and make sure that the corners that are cut by a machine are perfect, right? But why not get a one-of-one collectible that you can show to people that come to your house and, like, have another... Everyone's got a favorite player. Everyone had a poster on their wall when they were kids, and everyone's got a man cave and, somewhere where they show, like, all their collectibles and their favorite players. So this is definitely something that we saw a lot of success in, that people want to collect those Mike Trout cards that nobody else has. And Blake painted a one-of-one, and even if it's the same exact card, the way he paints it or stencils on it, whatever his artistic interpretation is like, it's a completely different card. And so the first couple months we've been releasing 50 to 70 cards that are all one-of-ones, and like he said, at the same time, people could say, Tony, I want a Red Sox card, and that's at a cheaper price point, but they still can enjoy Blake's art at a smaller price point.
Yeah, and you've given maybe a card that would sit in a monster box on a shelf somewhere, kind of a second life. You brought it back to life. You sent me a few. Full disclosure, I have a couple. One I'm keeping. I'm not going to say who it is on the air, And one guys, full disclosure, I'm actually going to give it to our 100th episode's coming up on Halloween. We're doing a live show, and I'm going to give one of those cards away to we're going to do retweets, and I have an app that'll just randomly pick a retweet, and whoever wins it is going to get that, Blake Jamieson CardArt card. You guys sent it to me probably a few months back, and I'm going to keep the one I have a real liking to, and award.
Steelers one.
What's?
I got some Steelers at home.
It's not a Steelers one, I will say that, and that definitely would have been a keeper too. But someone's gonna, one lucky listener is gonna get that card. But like you said, going back to, this is about the episode 100. You brought those cards, back. Maybe it'll be because it's a team. Maybe the player isn't, Mike Trout per se, but hey, I'm a huge Phillies guy, and look at this card. You've never seen this Phillies card, right? You got all your boring Phillies cards, and then you got this Phillies card, and I have it, and you don't. And like you said, you got so many directions you can go, and then maybe future collabs with other artists, and it's going to be fun to see, where it goes, and and like any idea, right? You start in one place, and you wind up, when all is said and done, you just go in a whole other direction, and that's the beauty of anything and art itself.
Yeah, I definitely I got some Steelers cards downstairs, but I found a Pirates card that I had put aside.
See, I'm a Mets guy. It's crazy. So I'm a Mets guy. I'm a Mets in baseball and the Steelers in football. I'm from New York City. I'm from Brooklyn originally. I'm in Syracuse now, and just as a kid, was the 70s, Mean Joe Green, that Steel Curtain. I love black and yellow. And I remember even as a kid in New York City growing up, I pronounced my team as the Steelers. And my buddies are like, are you kidding? Like, we live in New York, dude. You either got to be a Giants or a Jets fan. I'm like, I don't like either of those teams. And so I took a lot of heat. I'm not going to lie. But I steadfast. I didn't cave, and then the 80s came, and there were some lean years. I didn't jump ship then, so no one can question my loyalty. But I do the Mets and the New York Rangers in hockey, and then the Brooklyn Nets in basketball. So Pittsburgh's sort of where I veered off in the football, and I actually, obviously under normal circumstances, I usually go to Heinz Field once or twice a year. Not going to happen this year, obviously. So we'll watch in the comforts of home. But it's fun, and those are stories, right? You love to hear, like, how did you're from New York City? How are you a Steeler guy? Like, makes no sense. It was just that the Mean Joe Green Coke commercial, which was voted like the most famous commercial of all time. That kid was my age when that commercial came out, and he had a resemblance to me. So I was like seeing that commercial. I'm like, that's me. I know it wasn't me, but I just put myself in that spot. He gets thrown a jersey. It's just goofy stuff sometimes of how you become a fan of a player or a team, and that was it for me. Like I said, I took some shots and abuse from my fellow New York City brethren, but I survived, and and there's a lot. There's Steeler bars in New York City now, so I know I'm not, I'm not the only one. But and going back to the card art is, like you said, when you have whatever your team is, now you can have sort of a one of a kind collectible pertaining to that team or player that you're not going to pull out of it. It's not going to come out of a pack. Like that, and it's going to be neat to see where you go. Maybe some die cut cards, and I know Black. I think you had him on. There's a guy that does bubblegum art on the card. I mean, yeah, there's so many different things you can do to take a regular card and then transform it into who knows what, and a work of art, pun intended. It's going to be fun and to see, where card art goes, and I'm looking forward to it. I can speak for myself. So
Yeah, absolutely.
well, guys, I always give the guests in this case kind of the final say where people can see what you're doing, Blake, Tony, CardArt, and we talked about that kind of to close this thing out, where people can kind of get on board with that in the early stages of it, and the floor is yours. Go ahead and take your time and give out all that information.
I'll do me, Tony. You do CardArt. All right. Well, if somebody just wants to ask a question, I'm very active on Twitter. So at Blake Jamieson on Twitter. I read every DM. I try to reply to every tweet, even the mean ones. I also live stream on YouTube. It was an every night thing, Monday through Friday. I actually just switched it over. We're just going to do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays on YouTube, and that's where you can see me in action. Mondays, I do Mail Monday. Wednesdays, I paint something, and Fridays, I interview another artist, and that is at 10:23 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/Blake Jamieson. And then you can see all my art at blake.art.
Thanks so much, Sean, for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
People can reach me for any issue, Blake related or CardArt related. It's Bianchini, Bianchini 23 on Twitter, Facebook. You can find me, and then we're at cardart.com. Real easy to remember, and we have one-of-ones every month. And like Blake said, we're working to bring on other artists that have a different spin on it, and some of them are custom cards that people are putting together by hand. Some are painted in other ways. Some are sketch drawn. Some are based on a lot of nostalgic things we're looking to bring back. So cardart.com is where you can find us. That's it.
All right, guys, and again, we'll as time goes on, and CardArt, obviously it's already off the ground, but gets bigger, which it will. We'll definitely have you back on, and future collabs. I hope in tops, like you said, Blake, and it sounds like they're moving in that direction. We're going to see your work in some regular releases where we can open a pack like we talked about and have it right in our hand instantly, and I think that would be great to see.
Love it. Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Hello, Jerry. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. All right, today's question comes by way of Instagram from user sportscards_collector702. And he wrote, actually this week, he says, I have a question that you might consider on an episode sometime. I'm curious how well sticker autos will hold up over time. Will the adhesive deteriorate and ultimately leave the card in poor condition over time? Now, I'm not a plastics or materials expert. Sticker autos don't bother, I know you didn't ask this, but I'll kind of mention it. Sticker autos don't bother me as much as certain other people are bothered by them. Would I rather have an on-card auto over a sticker auto? Sure, and I think 99.9% of people would answer yes to that. Now, as far as the long-term effects of sticker autos, I don't think it's going to be much of a deal. I don't know what exactly the material of the sticker auto is made of, 3M material, but I have some in my boxes that are now approaching probably over 20 years old, and to look at them, I see really no difference in them. So I think as long as they're protected, you put them in a sleeve or a top loader or UV type of like a one-touch, where they're not going to break down as quick by the elements, I think you're going to be fine. I think I wouldn't so much worry about the sticker itself as much as light kind of, making that autograph fade. Like we've seen on baseballs and, those sweet spot signatures, which I know is not a sticker auto, but it's sad to see some of those, especially the Hall of Famers and stuff, as that ink kind of just fades away. And I've even seen a couple people post those where the signature's all but gone. It almost looks like it's an error card where the player was supposed to sign it and they didn't, when in reality they did, but the autograph is faded. So I think that the trick, Sports Collector 702, definitely protect the sticker auto, or any auto for that matter. Put it in a sleeve, get it into a top loader, a semi-rigid, or whatever protective case that's going to shield it from the UV light that will get it to fade. But as far as the sticker itself, I've got sticker autos approaching are over 20 years old, and if you look at them today, they look pretty much exactly the same as they did when I got them many, many years ago. So I'm not too worried. I hope that answers your question. I mean, does that, everything breaks down in some form or fashion. Is it going to look as the exact same as 50 years? 50 years later? Probably not, but I don't think the deterioration is going to be a lot. And if it's something of significance, I'm a grader. So I get that thing in a slab, well protected with that big thick plastic between it and the outside world, and it'll last even longer. So I hope that answers your question. I appreciate you asking it. And for anyone else listening, if you have a question and you want your question read over the air, me answered it, and me giving you the credit for the question, by all means reach out to us on any of your social medias. And if you go to Anchor and our show page, you can actually ask a voice question, and if you do that, I'll put you on the show itself. So there you go. Hope that answers that question for you.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
All right, got a great prize to give away this week, thanks to one of our great sponsors, Iron Sports Cards. Rob Valente does PSA and SGC subs, does a great job with them. I'm a customer, so I can speak from experience, not just a shill. I don't do that. And he's nice enough to give away this week 5 vintage level, got to be vintage, free PSA submissions, absolutely free. So you got 5 vintage cards. You always wanted slabbed by PSA. You should have got in this contest. We have a winner. Happy to announce the winner is Mike Janeway. Mike Janeway from Twitter at MJANEWAY. MJWay. Congratulations, Mike. You've won 5 free vintage level PSA submissions from Iron Sports Cards.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA and now SGC submissions. They offer various service levels at the lowest prices around. They even provide the card savers your cards need to be submitted at no extra charge. Their elite status helps improve turnaround times, and their chat rooms keep you abreast of your subs and the status of your cards. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. All right, that's going to bring episode 98 to a close. As always, I want to thank my guests, in this case, Blake Jamieson and Tony Bianchini. Great conversation. We talked about the project, good and bad. We talked about card art. We talked about, whether we're going to see, some of these 2020 project artists in regular flagship type products, more in the future as a direct result of this. And I hope we do. I appreciate both of them coming on and giving their insight and intellect. Great conversation. Had a great time, and appreciate everything they're doing. Talented in their own right. So thank you, as always. Without you, there's no me. And so, I love doing this show, and it's you folks out there that let me do it. And so I try not to miss an episode of giving a sincere and heartfelt thanks. And so there you go. We're approaching episode 100. This was 98. We got another show next week, and then 100. I want to talk a little bit about episode 100. It's going to be live. It's going to be on Halloween, Saturday, the 31st. So there won't be a show released on the podcast platforms on Friday. We're going to do the live show on Saturday, Halloween, I believe at 1 p.m. Eastern. 3 guests will join me. It will be Brody the Kid, Dr. James Beckett, and Drew Herndon from Let Me Get That Potograph. We're going to give away a ton of stuff. We're going to talk hobby. I'm going to tell those gentlemen sort of why I had them on and what they mean to me in the hobby. And so it's going to be a great show. People are going to win stuff. We're going to have some great guests and great prizes. And it's a celebration. When I started this show, I had no idea we would get to an episode 100. I didn't plan that far ahead, and here we are approaching that. And again, it doesn't happen without great sponsors, without great guests, and ultimately, it doesn't happen without you guys out there listening into all. I believe we're in 40. We've been listened to in 44 countries as well, and that's. That's humbling when you think about it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope everyone's excited for episode 100. I know I am. But before we get to 100, we got to do a 99. We don't skip shows. And so episode 99, next Friday, got another great guest. I know I'm biased, and it's easy for me to say. Jeremy Lee, you may know him from his YouTube show, Sports Cards Live, which I appeared on a few weeks ago. Great show, Wednesdays and Saturdays, I believe. I was on Saturday night, and long interviews, but they're great, in-depth. He asks great questions, has a great guest list. I joke with him that, our guest list are two of the best, and I don't want to say they are the best. There's a lot of great shows, but we're right up there in the conversation for best guest list. And I was on his show, and I want to have him on mine. He hails from Canada, so we're going to talk probably a little hockey, how his show came all about, his background. He's also a dealer like myself, and so we're going to share some of that knowledge amongst ourselves. So and with you as well. So again, thank you. Please stay safe. Please stay well. We'll see you here next Friday.